Therapists, what is something people are afraid to tell you because they think it's weird, but that you've actually heard a lot of times before? The amount of people I see who feel like they should be grieving a certain way and are afraid that they must not have loved someone, or must not have cared. People grieve in all sorts of ways. The 5 stages of grief are bullshit. I was consulting with another clinician who was seeing a couple whose daughter had died. The wife was convinced that the husband must not have cared about her because he wasn't grieving out loud. In reality, while she had been going to support groups and outwardly expressing, he had been continuing to work in a garden that him and his daughter had kept when she was alive, using that time to process and grieve as he did. Both were perfectly fine ways of grieving, however it is expected that one's grief is more than the other. They both ended up working it out however, he driving her and others to their weekly support group, her attempting to work in the garden with him on the condition that they didn't talk. Really sweet. To that same extent, the amount of people who are unaware of their own emotions and emotional process is astounding. So many people feel only angry or happy and worry something must be wrong with them otherwise. Normalizing feeling the whole gamut is just as important. Recognizing what we're feeling as well as what it feels like in our body when we're feeling is incredibly helpful for understanding how we process and feel. As a whole, how we treat emotions as a society is kinda fucked. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Intrusive thoughts. Nearly everyone has thoughts about pushing the old lady onto the subway train, swerving into opposing traffic, or stabbing their loved one in the stomach while cooking dinner with them. Some folks, however, take these thoughts very serious that believe that they might act them out. It's called thought-action fusion. Most of us are able to brush them off, though. I have heard some variant of, "This is probably weird, but I feel if I am my true self around others then they won't like me," more times than I can count. As I explore the formative situations to this belief alongside my clients, it definitely pulls at my heartstrings. I'd say a common one is believing that there's something innately, irreparably wrong with them that makes them unable to ever truly fit in. For a lot of people it's such a deeply ingrained belief that it can be extremely painful to acknowledge or express, regardless of the level of personal success in their lives. That they do not know what they enjoy doing. Often they have people in their life, including therapists, say, "Try to do something fun today," or ask, "What do you like to do when you have free time?" Many people I work with do not know what those are. Once I explain that I dislike these statements/questions because they assume people should know the answer, and that many people don't, I can watch as they relax, take a deep breath, and say something to the effect of, "Oh my, that's so good to hear. I have no idea what I like to do." That's part of the problem. More often than not they feel like they should know and that everyone else their age has it figured out. They are embarrassed to say that they don't know when in fact not knowing is very common. I couldn't even try to count how many clients I've had this conversation with. Unwanted intrusive thoughts are normal and do not mean you are a bad person, yes, even intrusions of sexual/religious/moral themes. By definition, these are thoughts that are unwanted bc they go against your own values and highlight what you don't want to do, e.g., a religious person having unwanted blasphemous images pop into their mind, or a new parent having unwanted sexual thoughts about their new baby. However normal these thoughts are, over 90% of the population, the moral nature of these thoughts mean that often people experience a lot of shame and take many years before they first tell someone about them. Edit. Because this is getting more visibility that I realized, the occurrence of these thoughts/images/urges are normal. The best way to manage them is to accept that they are a normal, albeit unpleasant, brain process, and a sign of the opposite of who you are and are therefore unlikely to ever do. Let the thought run its course in the background while you bring your attention back to, insert something you can see/feel/hear/taste/touch. I usually say something like, "Okay mind. Thanks for that mind. I'm going to get back to washing the dishes," and the sound/sensation of the water while you ponder all the nasties. Carry on. I literally say it to myself with a slightly amused tone bc I am always genuinely amused at all the wild stuff my brain can produce. A common one in the time I was a therapist was simply, "I don't know." You'd be surprised how reluctant people are to admit that they don't know why they're feeling how they are. But that's exactly why you're, or were, I'm not a therapist anymore, sat there with me, so we can figure out why together. It always put me in mind of a line from America by Simon and Garfunkel. "Kathy, I'm lost," I said, though I knew she was sleeping. "I'm empty, aching, and I don't know why." Clients become quite fearful of admitting that they weren't successful since the last time they had a session. This could include not succeeding in using a coping skill that they're learning about, or not being able to complete a homework assignment I gave them. Humans aren't robots, and therapy is a lot of work. That being said, I don't expect people to be perfect as they start to work on themselves in a positive way. It takes time to really commit to change, especially in relation to trauma or conflicted views that an individual holds. I feel as if the client doesn't want to let me down as their therapist, but these failure events are just as important to talk about as successful moments. That they don't like their family members, are angry/want to stop communication with their parents, etc. I work in a country which is more culturally collectivist, so not wanting anything to do with your parents makes you an a-hole in the current cultural sense. We deal with this almost on a daily basis. There is deep and profound shame in this, and when we find that line of, oh, it might be that your parents are toxic to your mental well-being/trigger your trauma, many of my clients actually get visibly angry with me. Cultural psychology is so important, cause when I first moved here I had my American/European hat on. Oh boy, did I need to adjust. Edit, I'm in Ukraine. Women often feel really ashamed when they tell me they are burnt out on being a parent or that they never want to have kids. I wish all of them knew how common this thought is. Hidden sexual dreams and fantasies about family members. More common than people think, and often stays that way and doesn't really interfere in the person's close relationships unless they allow it. Many things we dream or think are unconscious and involuntary, and the root of such things is often nonsensical. Usually it's sex-related. Shame about their desires or kinks is common. Gender questioning is another. Some people are ashamed of things they did in childhood or adolescence, haven't ever told anyone and think the team will be horrified. We have heard everything. Everything. I'm always compassionate and always understand why we do the things we do. I've yet to have anyone bring something I can't get. OCD gets misunderstood a lot. It's not just having a clean house or liking things to be organized. Common intrusive thoughts can include violent thoughts of harming children and other loved ones, intrusive thoughts of molesting children, fear of being a serial killer, etc. My clients can feel a lot of shame when discussing the thoughts or worry I will hospitalize them. I work with a lot of anxiety and trauma clients. Whenever I ask if they would describe their experience as being anxious about being anxious, I get a lot of OMG, yes. Anxiety has such a physical impact in the body, heart pounding, trouble breathing, feeling faint or cold, tunnel vision, that we become aware of our body's reaction before we even notice the anxious thoughts triggering the reaction. Then we panic about why our bodies are flipping out when we're not even aware of feeling threatened, and the anxiety compounds on itself. Anxiety is like an alarm system in our bodies to signal the presence of real or perceived danger. What would you do if your alarm was going off at your house? Check to see if there's a real threat, scan your environment/situation to ground yourself in the present, turn off the alarm. Breathing exercises do help, along with mindfulness techniques like body scans, and then investigate what tripped the alarm, process thoughts around the situation that read like danger to you. It's also important to note that danger doesn't need to be a gun getting pulled on you. Panicking during a presentation that could impact your job and threaten the way you pay your bills and afford your life can feel pretty dangerous if you think about it. Being tired of being a mother. There's this social thing of loving your kids and they should be the first thing in your life, but having a child is messy and a real hard work. Is normal to just want to take a break once in a while from all that responsibility. As someone in the substance abuse field, I know that it's difficult for clients to tell me they got high with a parent, but it's something I get told fairly regularly. It's kinda sad. That they haven't had sex with their partner in years and don't know how/if they will ever have sex with their partner again. There is so much shame around sex in the USA that a lot of people are scared to talk to their partner about their sexual needs. Time goes by, and suddenly they haven't had sex in 3, 5, 10 years. It starts for a lot of people in their 40s and 50s. A lot of people, falsely, believe there is something wrong with their marriage because they fantasize about people other than their partner. I work in an older adult service for people with dementia and mental health problems. I see a lot of family members/carers feeling ashamed of the fact that they are finding it incredibly difficult to care for someone that has dementia or a chronic mental health problem. Carer burnout is a real issue and people need to know that it's not easy to see someone you love struggling every day, or slowly fading away month by month. Carers and family members desperately need time for themselves and need to know that it's okay to feel the way that they do. No one is superhuman and we all have our own needs. It's why we have therapy groups for carers. It's okay to struggle to look after someone and you should in no way feel ashamed of having those feelings. That they hear voices. I've found that a lot of people aren't familiar with their own internal dialogue or self-talk and that this is typically normal internal processing. A lot of people think that they are hearing voices and hallucinating. There are some pretty simple questions we can ask to determine if it's hallucinating or just internal dialogue, and most often it's the latter. I'm support worker, social worker, not a therapist. I've had clients too scared to tell me their accomplishments because they think they should only be bringing their problems to case management and that if we see them getting better that we won't care/prioritize them as much. Another is hard drugs. We don't endorse it by any means, but we have to know if we need to keep an eye out for inappropriate behavior and overdoses. We never get mad at them for being high, we just want to send them to their room to sober up.